Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session on deploying highly personalized shopping experiences in time for Black Friday. Excited to be with you here today. My name is Megan Boss, and I am the Worldwide Sales Specialist at AWS focused on Amazon Personalize. We're going to be talking today about how you can drive business growth by enhancing your personalization strategy with machine learning. Let's start by touching on the current landscape of personalization in general. Personalization is everywhere and something that we have all experienced as consumers. You probably recently watched on-demand video or saw a personalized TV show and a movie recommendations tailored just for you, or you visited an e-commerce site or Amazon.com and saw product recommendations based on your past purchase history or items that you've engaged with in the past. So what's driving this trend towards personalized consumer experiences? First is the rapid development of technology and the growing amount of time people spend online. It's increased the number of customer touchpoints and interactions across a vast array of products. Second is the ability to deliver more sophisticated experiences that have evolved over time. So as intrinsic expectations and on demand from customers grow, the ability to receive more personalized experiences with the brands they engage with also increase. Third, customers expect frictionless and curated experiences across digital channels. In fact, 63% of consumers see this as the standard level of service. Lastly, market leaders are making investments in personalization to meet these growing customer expectations. What are some of the key business outcomes or benefits of personalization? The first is delivering curated and relevant customer experiences that enable organizations to improve business outcomes that are strategic for their business, like acquiring and retaining customers, increasing engagement, as measured by KPIs like click-through rate, on-time website, content views, or email open rate, driving efficiencies or increasing average revenue for customers, and improving discoverability, which is particularly important for organizations with large catalogs or new products are frequently being added. According to a 2019 McKinsey study, organizations have implemented personalized recommendations and triggered communications have realized a 5 to 15% increase in revenue and a 10 to 30% increase in marketing spend efficiency. So there's some pretty real business benefits that we're helping customers realize by leveraging personalization solutions. So we know that there is a trend towards more personalization in the industry, and we know it has tangible business benefits, but why Amazon Personalize? It starts with Amazon's rich history and experience in this space. Amazon.com is a pioneer of personalization with over 20 years of experience. Through our experiences, we recognize that different personalization strategies are needed for different use cases. Machine learning has enabled us to deliver unique experiences to individual customers based on their behavior, preferences, rather than just generic segments of people. Our goal is to enable organizations to leverage our learnings and make it easy for them to use machine learning with the data and systems they already have to create unique experiences for their customers across channels at scale. This is why we created Amazon Personalize, to enable developers to build applications with the same machine learning technology used by Amazon.com for real-time personalized recommendations with no machine learning expertise required to improve business metrics like click-through rate, conversion, marketing efficiency, and revenue. Leveraging machine learning for personalization provides several benefits, including the ability to deliver high-quality recommendations with proprietary machine learning algorithms used by Amazon Personalize. These algorithms create higher quality recommendations that respond to the specific needs, preferences, and changing behavior of your customers. They're designed to address complex problems, such as creating up to 50% better recommendations for new users, products, and content with no historical data. They're also purpose-built for delivering unique one-to-one rather than one-to-many personalized customer experiences. We also enable personalization at every customer touchpoint. Amazon Personalize easily integrates into your existing websites, apps, SMS, and email marketing systems to provide unique customer experiences across channels and devices, eliminating high infrastructure and resource costs. Amazon Personalize also provides the flexibility to use real-time or batch-based recommendations based on what's most appropriate for your use case. For example, real-time data may be more appropriate for product or content recommendations when users are shopping online for Black Friday, or batch data may be more appropriate for large email campaigns to communicate promotions leading up to the big day. Amazon Personalize is easy to implement and implements at scale. It's a challenge with static rule-based systems that efficiently scaling as the catalog scales and grows over time. This human effort also maintains these solutions increases proportionately with scale. So performance diminishes, resulting in poor customer experiences and decreased ROI. Amazon Personalized does not rely on static rules, enabling customers to scale their personalization strategy efficiently. We also really focus on data privacy and security. So all of your organization's data is encrypted to be private and secure and is only used to create recommendations for your customers. All models are private and custom, and we do not share data between customers or with Amazon Retail. As we all know, the retail industry is undergoing a massive transformation due to pricing pressures, market disruption from emerging online players, and the ever-evolving expectation of customers to have hundreds of millions of current and existing offerings across multiple brands. In order to compete, retail organizations cannot rely on traditional differentiation tactics like unique selection or mass pricing and promotion strategies. Instead, retailers need to maximize their data to provide custom, unique experiences across digital channels to surprise and delight their customers along every touch point of the customer journey. The strategic priorities of retailers today are shifting and continuously evolving, and now need to include offering a seamless purchase experience from across multiple shopping journeys, from digital to in-app and in-store, support multiple fulfillment options from ship to store, same-day delivery, or curbside pickup, while delivering on the customer promise, ensuring sustainability and safety for customers and employees across these different engagement points, and creating personalized customer experiences that drive satisfaction and increase brand loyalty. Amazon Personalized addresses the last strategic priority by helping retailers create real-time personalized user experiences faster and at scale. It combines interaction or behavioral data with user and item metadata from multiple systems to make more accurate predictions about customer purchase intent and behavior. With these machine learning driven insights, retailers can start engaging customers with relevant experiences across channels to drive awareness, consideration, and purchase. Quickly, let's touch on a retail use case where our customer StockX, which is a sneaker retailer that bases their sneaker retail selection off the stock market. If you're a sneakerhead, you may be familiar with this user experience. StockX implemented Amazon Personalized leading up to Black Friday and was able to see a 50% increase in customer engagement on the recommended for you product row. This slide helps highlight some of the most common use cases from retail customers that we see when it comes to personalization. One of the most common use cases is the ability to deliver unique homepage experiences. By personalizing the user's homepage with product recommendations based on their individual shopping history. Another common use case is refining product recommendations by recommending similar items on product detail pages to help users find easily what they're looking for. An important driver can also be to improve discoverability. When customers have large catalogs with several items, it's easy to rely on things like popularity. However, using and improving discoverability within the catalog helps your customers find the most relevant product for them based on their unique shopping history. And another key use case is enhancing marketing communication by sending personalized push notifications or emails with individualized product recommendations or promotional materials to help encourage the customer to engage more with your brand. And lastly, many retailers use personalization to boost upsell and cross-sell by combining Amazon Personalized with business logic to create tailored cart upsell and cross-sell recommendations. I'll now pass it over to my colleague Luis to dive a little bit deeper into the service and share more about how Amazon Personalized can help you deliver recommendations by Black Friday.
Thank you, Megan, for that. That was an awesome intro to how customers can use Personalized in the retail space. Hello, everybody. My name is Luis Lopez. I'm a specialty solutions architect working with Amazon Personalized Service Team, and I'll be showcasing you how to get Personalized all set up for your retail deployment. Before we dive deep into Amazon Personalize, I always like to cover the AWS machine learning stack. From the bottom up, we have the three layers of the stack that we think that you can leverage in order to achieve personalization. The first layer is the frameworks and infrastructure. Here's where you can purchase your EC2 instances and set them up however you want, but it requires a lot of knowledge in machine learning and how to actually set all of these EC2 instances in order to achieve your business objectives. The second layer is the SageMaker layer, where we have created this platform where you can pick any algorithm that you want and host it in SageMaker itself. This also requires you to have deep knowledge on machine learning, so it does take a little bit more time to get it set up. The third layer is the AI services layer, where Amazon Personalize resides. And this is an API-driven service that is very easy to use, and you can get set up pretty quickly. Now, how does Amazon Personalize work in the backend? The first thing that you need to do is identify which data you want to ingest into the service. Amazon Personalize accepts three types of datasets. The first one and the most important, which is the only one that is required, is the user items interactions dataset. Here's where you can provide Amazon Personalize the signal that you want it to model on. So for example, you can provide the views, the signups, the conversions. In your case, for retail, the views, the add to carts, the purchases that your customers are interacting inside of your catalog. Additionally, you can provide the item metadata, which is the description of the items that are inside of your catalog, and you can add additional columns, such as a column where you want to optimize for business objectives, and we're going to see that in today's example. And also, you can provide a column that has the raw description of each of the items, so Personalize can run NLP models on top of it and identify additional product features to model on. And the third a dataset that you can provide for Amazon Personalize is going to be your user metadata. And in the user metadata, you can provide descriptions about your users, their age, their location, the genre, additional information that you have about your user, so Personalize can use that as a signal during training time. Once you import the data into Personalize, Personalize takes over from here, inspects the data, identifies the features. As I mentioned before, you can get as fancy as using NLP. It selects the hyperparameters if you would like Personalize to do that by training multiple training jobs in parallel and then giving you the most performant hyperparameters. Once these models are trained, Personalize optimizes the models every 2 hours using a feature that is called the auto update, where it will select individual items that are called. So for example, if you just launch a new line on your t-shirts, and it will do exploration across your users. So those items can get additional interactions, and then at next training time, that gets considered for the exploitation piece. Once you have your models trained in Personalize, you can host them behind customized personalization API, which actually auto-scales to match your business requirements. If you wouldn't like to do real-time recommendations, you can always do your batch recommendations jobs, which allow you to run email campaigns or even cache the recommendations if you would like to do so. Now, how does Amazon Personalize looks like in production? Now, this is a very oversimplified slide where you have your data sitting in Redshift. You can export this data into S3, do some ETL of the data that you exported from Redshift, and get the data in the shape that I mentioned before in those 3 data sets. Then train your Amazon Personalize deployment, and then you're done with Personalize, and you can start getting recommendations from your website or your mobile application or your smart TV or anywhere that you would like to put these recommendations on. At the same time, you can ingest events into Personalize in real time, and this allows you to account for your user intent. And so in the case of retail, if a customer like me, Luis, starts shopping for a watch and then he gets distracted and starts shopping for shoes, and this happens all the time, as we all know, you should be able to adjust those recommendations in real time, and Personalize allows you to do so to track the user intent by streaming those events into Amazon Personalize using the event tracker. At the same time, we always suggest you persist those events in S3 in case something happens and you need to replay them again. Now, if we take a look at to a more detailed slide, we have here our API layers, right? So we have the events API layer where you can put the events. Then those events go through kinesis, in this case, data streams. The Firehose puts those events in S3 for persistence. And then you can have a Lambda function put those events directly into the event tracker inside of your Amazon personalized deployment. Now, if you already have infrastructure that does this, that it keeps track of your events, then you could technically talk directly to the event tracker, and you wouldn't need to have the top of this architecture. Now, in the bottom part, we have the API layer for getting recommendations. Now, here you can do get recommendations using a Lambda function. And again, if you already have a microservice or some infrastructure to get the recommendations from your current recommender system, you can point that to talk to the campaign, which is the managed endpoint that will auto-scale depending on how many transactions per second, or in other words, how many page loads you are resolving recommendations from Amazon Personalized. This campaign is going to be pointing to a solution version, which in the personalized world, that means a trained model. And we're going to see the configurations and things like this on these trained models. But these models are trained using the data that you imported into the service from S3, and then any incremental data that you ingested from the event tracker. Remember, these solution versions are updated every 2 hours if you're using the user personalization model, or if you're using an algorithm, or if you're using the personalized ranking algorithms. Now, isn't personalized a recommendation service? Why NLP? Well, a lot of customers have product descriptions or product reviews or movie synopses that allow them to describe their products in a better way for their customers to interact with them. So Amazon Personalized now supports extracting meaningful information from this unstructured text using NLP models that are hosted by the service in the backend. So you don't need to worry about those ones. You don't need to retrain them. Those are being retrained quite often by the product itself. This is particularly important when the items are new. So in the case of a call item, maybe a T-shirt, maybe a new line of T-shirts that you just launched, you want to have those descriptions and you want to pass that to Personalize. Also, for items that have low interactions data, we have seen that having these unstructured text makes them more relevant when we're scoring the recommendations. Also, if you don't have a structured metadata, we have some customers that have told us, hey, Luis, I don't have a structured metadata. I haven't had time to go and create those columns for you, but I have the description. Now Amazon Personalized can take that description, do the tokenization in the backend, and then use that for features. One of the things that you need to keep in mind is that we only accept up to 20,000 characters, and the text must be in English. So if we look at an example on how you can compare the performance of this, we run an example on the Amazon Pantry dataset, and that's what we're going to see pretty soon in the notebook that I have prepared for you all. And we compared two dataset groups, which are the biggest encapsulation of experiments that you can do in Personalize. We created interactions dataset and one items interactions, one items metadata dataset without descriptions and one with descriptions. We train a solution version, and then we compare the offline metrics. And as you can see here, we saw a 26% increase on coverage after we added the descriptions in this dataset, and also about a 20-ish% of increase on the percentage on the offline metrics. Now, these offline metrics do tell you how the model performed against a holdout dataset, but we always recommend our customers to do A/B testing in order to get the actual performance metrics against your KPIs on a live deployment to see how these recommendations are performing in front of your actual customers. So other question that we get all the time is, how do I optimize for something other than relevancy, right? So if you, for example, have a column in your items dataset that tells you how much revenue each item is bringing into your business, how do you optimize for this? So in this case, we're going to see an example on how to do so. But before we do that, let me describe this feature to you. Now Personalize accepts optimizing on a particular business objective. This business objective needs to be defined as a numerical value in the items metadata dataset. And then you get to pick how much sensitivity you want personalized to optimize for. So you can set it to off, and so no optimization at all. You can set it to low, medium, and high. And then Personalize is going to take those numbers that you pass in that column in your items metadata dataset, and it will use that at inference time to re-rank the recommendations to optimize for that particular business objective, in this case, revenue. Now, if you remember the offline metrics that we saw before for the unstructured text, now for the optimization objective, we actually give you an additional offline metric, which is the average rewards at K, that will help you see how much you're getting on how much more performance you're getting if you pick a different index based on the item that you're trying to optimize for. Also, a good point to point out is that you can update the metadata value per item using the put items API, which will get picked up with the auto update that happens every 2 hours, as I mentioned before. So now let's jump into a demo. Before I jump into a demo in the notebook, I would like to make this a little bit more real with an example that has a nice UI. So one of our SAs built this retail demo store that allows us to showcase how Personalized can be integrated in an e-commerce website. So for example, here, if I land in the homepage and I am not signed in, so in theory, I'm a cold user, I can see the trending products, which are the most popular products in this data set. That is a fictitious demo store. And this is powered by the user personalization algorithm. And as we can see here, we have a lot of popular items. So we can see here, people really like cilantro on the interactions, and a lot of clothing and some books. So now, if you remember before, I told you that we can track the intent of a user using the put events API. So now let me try to go down a rabbit hole of books. So now this click that I just did will fire a put events that will be that will say that event type was a view. Now if I add to cart, now I'm telling Personalized, hey, I really like this book. Now let me go into Thai cuisine and do the same thing. And let me now look at Australia. And as you can see here, I'm clicking on similar items that are also being powered by Personalized, similar to what you see in Amazon.com, where you're looking at a particular item description, and we showcase other items similar to this one. This is a different algorithm that you can pick in Personalized and provide this experience to your customers. So let me keep going down this path. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the homepage, and we're going to see that our recommendations now should be more aligned to books. Now that we're back into the homepage, we can see that a lot of books are now displayed as the top recommendations in our homepage, and not anymore only the popular items. So as we remember, the cilantro now is gone. This is because we are keeping track in Personalized of that particular user session, even though the user is called. Now, if I were to sign in, I have now logged in as a different shopper, just to show you how it looks like when a user is not called. So in this case, we have the description of this shopper, which is a male, 39 years old, named Billy, who likes groceries, seasonal, and tools. And we can see here that the recommendations are leaning a lot towards food, because this user interacts a lot with groceries. Now, if we look at the featured products, which is using the Personalized re-ranking recipe, we see here that tools are picking up a little bit more relevancy when we're doing recommendations. So let me show you again the same path, but now for a known user. So now I'm going to start clicking on items that are more related to tools. And when I go back to my homepage, I should be able to see those recommendations being adjusted, leaning more towards tools. So here we see the screwdriver is now popping up here. And also this backpack showed up. So now you should be getting the point where Personalized allows you to keep track of the user intent on real time. Now let me walk through a more technical example. Okay, so now this is a notebook that I have created for now, which is using the Prime Amazon reviews dataset. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm cleaning up the interactions, and I'm also cleaning up the notebook to be able to show you how to add an additional column to do revenue optimization. So in this case, after I have cleaned all of the data from the raw reviews, I have this data set that will contain the item ID, the brand, the price, and the description of each item. And also, I have added a revenue column here to be able to optimize on this column. We can see here that the distribution of revenue is pretty random. So this is actually fake revenue that will be collected per item, just because this data set did not expose how much revenue the company is getting per item, which is acceptable, right? Because it's a public data set. Now here we see that the distribution of revenue that is from 0 to 90 cents is pretty even across the data set. So in theory, Amazon Personalized should be able to optimize for the 90 cents, which is the highest revenue, if I set this column to be optimized for. I will make sure that this notebook is public, and I will drop the link in the description of the video, so you'll be able to replicate this example. So just long story short, I'm creating my data sets using the schema. So for example, here I have the interactions data set, which has the user ID, the item ID, the timestamp, the event value, and the event type. This is a very common schema that you can use for your interactions data set. After that, you can query the API, so Personalized create a schema, and then I will create the data set, upload the data in S3, modify my S3 bucket policy, and create an IAM role to allow Personalized to import this data from S3. Then I will do the same thing with the items dataset. But in this items dataset, I'm actually using two of the features that I told you in the presentation. First of all, I am using a textual column, which tells Personalized, hey, Personalized, use the description in my item to run your NLP models to identify additional features in this particular item and use that as metadata for your training. Additionally, I have added this revenue column, which will be used to optimize for, and we'll be able to see how that business objective optimization works through an example. So I create that schema, again, create a data set, upload the data in S3, and import the data into Personalized. Once the data is imported into Personalized, I can pick which recipe I'm going to use. In this case, we have a lot of recipes, as we can see here. The one that we're interested in using in this example is going to be the AWS User Personalization, because this supports the creation of the optimization objective. So here I'm creating three solutions, right? One solution that is using sensitivity of high, and I'm optimizing in the revenue attribute. I'm using one that is not turned on, and one that is low objective sensitivity. So I create the three solutions, then I create three solution versions. Then what I will need to do is I need to wait until each solution version is already created. And as you can see here, it took about 33 minutes to train my deployments. And after that, what you will need to do is you will need to create campaigns. Now, one of the things that I also mentioned in the presentation was the ability of Personalized to call star items through campaigns. So in this case, what I did is I set up my exploration weight to be 0.5, which is saying, hey, Personalized, do a little bit more exploration than the default value, which is 0.3. And this way, Personalized will take a look at call items in my items dataset catalog, and it will start showcasing them in front of my customers. Then what I'm doing is getting a random user ID. And as we can see here, I'm displaying the data set again. So remember, I have a revenue column. I'm defining a couple functions that will allow me to get the price, the brand, the description, and the revenue per item. And then I'm querying for recommendations. So in this case, I'm querying for a known user ID, which is this user right here. And I'm getting three types of recommendations here. One list is going to be using no optimization objective. And as we can see here, planters that will bring no revenue to my company. I know this is fictitious. It should be bringing some revenue, but I just wanted to showcase this, is displayed as item number 1. So this is probably some behavior that you want in your recommendations if you were to have an actual real revenue, right? But this is showcasing if you don't have the optimization objective, there could be items that have almost to non-revenue brought to your company, showcased in the top 10 recommendations. Now, if I optimize for a low objective, now I can see here that the total revenue of my recommendation list, and here are actually 25 items, jumps from $8.65 to $18.70. And as we can see here now, the top item is actually bringing me 80 cents of revenue. And then I see a lot of items that are at 50 cents. And I don't see many items that are at 0 or at 0.2, as we see in the first column. If you want to really optimize for revenue, in this case, you can set the high optimization, the optimization sensitivity to be high, and we can see here another jump to 21.6 cents, where now you see 0.9 items display a little bit higher, and mostly are going to be 0.9 and 0.8. Here we see a 0.7, right? Now, you must be asking yourself, why would I ever use the low or the off objective? Now, personalize in this feature is doing the balancing act between relevancy and your business objective. If you always optimize for revenue, you might be losing some relevancy on the items that your customers are seeing. Just think about it. If an item is very expensive and your customer has a tendency of buying less expensive items, if you show them just expensive items, they might never purchase anything from those recommendations. So that's where Personalize comes in. We have a formula in the backend that does that balancing act for you, but we're also giving you an additional lever for you to tune how much you want to lean towards your business objective or towards more of a relevancy, in this case, off or even low and medium. Usually what I see customers is starting with a medium sensitivity in this optimization objective. So you have a sweet spot. If you feel like you need to bump up a little bit more that business objective sensitivity, you definitely can, but I would highly suggest you doing some A/B test to understand how this lever is actually influencing your customer behavior. Now, these recommendations were showcased, this example for a known user. Let me show you what happens when you do the same thing for a cold user. In this case, we're doing this exact same thing, but what we see is that with a business objective turned off, the total revenue is 11 and 20 cents, with a low is 16, and with a high is 19.8. We can see here, if we go back, 19 versus 21, and also 8 versus 11. The reason why you see this change in the total revenue, right, in the type of recommendations that are showcasing, is because Personalized, when it has a cold user, as I showed you in the retail demo store when I wasn't logged in, it will show the most popular items in your items data set. Now, if you apply your business objectives on top of it, as we can see here that it actually works also with cold users. So this is another way that you could use this is another thing that you could use in order to provide more targeted recommendations based on the business objective for your cold users. Let me show you how some of the metrics look like when you train solutions like this. So in this case, I have 4 types of solutions that I train. The first one is the user personalization without any business objective feature. And if I go into my solution version, you can see here, I have my normalized discounted community gain, my precision, my mid-reciprocal rank, and my coverage. If I go back into my solutions and recipes, and I pick the high sensitivity that's using business objectives, and if I go back into my solution version metrics, you can see here that my normalized reward feature is my normalized reward metric is now available, and also you saw a coverage drop that it was from 0.13 to 0.0761. So coverage tells you how much of your catalog in a percentage base. So this is saying this solution version is recommending about 7.61% of your catalog after you apply the high sensitivity on your business objective metric. And this makes sense, right? Because we're telling Personalized, hey, Personalized, I want you to take a look at this revenue column, and I want you to re-rank these items. So now the items that have more revenue bringing into the company are going to be showcased more. So it's not as large of a data set that Personalized is recommending from compared to not using your business objectives recommendations and just doing relevancy. So if you see a drop on the coverage or in the other metrics, you will. I just want to make sure that you understand that it will make sense because now you're optimizing for something outside of relevance, and you train Personalized with relevance-based data, your interactions, right? Like your clicks, your views, your add to carts, and your purchases. And on top of that, now you're telling Personalized to optimize for an additional metric. I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, we will be taking them in chat and also after the presentation is done. Now let's cover a very important topic in Amazon Personalized, which is security. Some of the supported features in the service include the ability of encrypting your data using your customer managed keys. We also provide you with metrics that you can look at in CloudWatch and also in CloudTrail. We support a couple of the certifications that allow the customer to be the service deployments to be compliant with some of the certifications that are, for example, HIPAA, FINMA, ISO, SOC 123, and PCI. Also, a very important point that I want to point out is that Amazon Personalized creates private models per customers, and these are hosted in your account for you. So Personalized does not use pre-trained models, hence the opt-out service improvement does not apply. Some features that are not supported yet are VPC endpoint, restricted internet access, FedRAMP, and IRAMP compliance. These are in the roadmap, so if these are of interest to you or that are a blocker to your deployment, please let us know, or your account team, so we can prioritize these on our roadmap. With that said, one thing that I want to highlight in this presentation is that Amazon Personalized not only works for retail use cases. In today's example, we cover a retail use case, but we have a lot of customers that are using Personalized in other areas or verticals. So, for example, media and entertainment, travel and hospitality. We actually have some customers in the financial industries space. So if you are interested on building personalization capabilities in your application, please feel free to get creative. And if you have any questions, reach out to us directly. Some of the resources that I would highly suggest you checking out are our blog posts. Our blog posts are amazing. They have a lot of good examples that link you to our GitHub page that will allow you to replicate examples using the notebooks, similar to what I show you in today's presentation. Thank you so much for attending this presentation. Again, my name is Luis Lopez, and before me, it was Megan Boss. We both work with the service team, so if you have any questions, we'll answer them now in chat and also in live. Thank you.